Good morning, friends. I want to go over something that's a little hard, and in fact, I hope I'm correct on it. I believe I am. That's I'm going to stand before God and give account of everything I ever say, especially if it has an effect in somebody's life. But this is a hard thing to teach, and it's hard in the Hebrew to understand. It's in Genesis 6. I'm going to read chapter 6, verse 6 through 8, where it says, "And repented the Lord that he hath made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repents me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the sight of the Lord." In verse 6, I want to explain two words, the word repent and the word made. The word repent there is 5162 in the Hebrew, and it simply means to breathe strongly, to sigh, to be sorry, but get this, in a favorable sense, to pity. And this repent here means to make a strong turning to a new course of action. The emphasis is on turning to a positive course of action. Keep that in mind. We may get back to that as I explain that word made. The word made is heya in the Greek, in the Hebrew. I'm in the Greek mostly, so I'm always referring to Greek, but it's in Hebrew. It's 1961. Once again, I read that out of concordance. The word repentance is too. I wrote that down, so I had to try to mark both places to run to. It means to exist, i.e., that means, in other words, be or become, come to pass. Heya means to become, occur, come to pass, be. Often this verb indicates more than simple existence or identity. This may be indicated by omitting the verb altogether. Rather, the verb makes a strong statement about the being or presence of a person. Being or presence of a person or thing. Yet the simple meaning become or come to pass appear often in the English version. The verb can be used to emphasize spirit. Alright, it goes on and on and on. A person, God, spirit, judge, emotion, fear, a state of being. Alright, hard for me to see out my glasses. And what that made there is referring to. What did I drop here? It's referring when it says, and it repented the Lord, but in a good way. I explain it in a second. The Lord that he hath made man on the earth. That made has to do with become. What man has become. It repent God. God see it in a good way to do verse 7, to destroy man off the face of the earth, for the betterment of all mankind as a whole. It's like taking, if you put one good apple in with a bunch of bad apples, do those bad apples become good? No. It would destroy that one good apple. So God seen it fit to destroy mankind, all except for Noah and his family. It wasn't because Noah was holier than thou or righteous than thou, because the best way to explain that, if you look at Sodom and Gomorrah, if who was it? Abraham was it? If he could find 50 righteous people, and it actually came down, if you could finally get down to one, God would spare them all. That righteousness, in our 21st century mind, we think of as holier than thou, but it's not. In the Old Testament, there, for that word, it simply means to have a moral conscience of right and wrong. But you see, with Sodom and Gomorrah, everything seemeth right to them. It's like the Darwin teaching. There's no absolutely nothing right. There's absolutely nothing wrong. The only consequences to your actions. If you can live with it, do it. It's fine. And that's the way their thinking was. Everything seemeth right to a man. So God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because they simply did not retain a moral conscience of right and wrong. Because see, if there was even one people out of those thousands or perhaps millions that had retained a moral conscience, then perhaps at some point they would have changed their ways. But you see, they were so jaded in their thinking that everything seemeth right unto them. So God just simply gave them over to a reprobate mind by their own free will, their own free choice, because that's what they wanted. It's the same way with what in the operation of God here. God repented, but it was in a good way, in a good sense, for the betterment of mankind as a whole. Otherwise, man would just totally have destroyed himself. So God just started over with Noah, not because Noah's holier than thou, he's just a big sinner as the rest of them. And that's hard for the religious world to accept, but it's true. But Noah retained a moral consciousness of right and wrong. There was a moral conviction there. So God spared him. You gotta remember, we won't get into Noah and this righteousness because that would take some time. Because there is no path of righteousness at that time. That's another teaching. So I just want to explain, because in our first 21st century mind, when we're looking at the Old Testament, which is basically all abstract words, because it was changed to make it easier for our reading and our understanding. When we look at verse 6, and it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, we say, oh man, God regret that he made man, he put man here on earth. But that's not what it's saying. It's just simply showing this repent, that God repented. It was in a good way, and having a change of course and an action that would be favorable to mankind in the long run. It's kind of hard to explain. If you look at that word made, I already read right out of the Strongs. It shows because of what man has become in his degenerate ways. God seen it necessary to take a course of action to wipe man out for the betterment of mankind as a whole. And there's going to come a day again, this time right from the judgment seat of God, this action can be taken again, once again, against man. Because man is coming to the point of being just as jaded and perverted, where everything seemeth right unto him, as it was in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. And that's how I see that verse 6. And it repented the Lord that he hath made man on the earth. And I hope that gives you a little bit more understanding of it. But don't take my word for it. Look these words up and study them. And you got to have an old concordance, otherwise you won't see where the word in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, and it's in the word in the earth was without form and void. That word was, it's the same word for this word made. And Genesis 2, I can't remember if I wrote that down. I think it's, yeah, Genesis 2:7, and it says man became a living soul. Guess what? It's the same number. Hey, yeah, the same number. Became, become, was. The office, the same word for that word, made. But if you don't have I got separate coordinates now. I was able to find the order ones. But if you can't, go online. Go online and look these words up, and you'll be able to see these things that I'm telling you for yourself. So I hope that gives you a bit more understanding that God didn't repent that He made mankind. God didn't ask man and changing His mind. God just took a different course of actions for the betterment of mankind, and because of what man had become. So I hope it gives you a bit more understanding of that verse, and God bless.